Hey everyone, Internet PCS Book Reader here. Today I want to talk about 100 Years of War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. Man, if there were any comments in this video, I sure hope they are from people who've read more than just online articles and social media posts. Anyway, I'm sure everyone are aware right now that there is a war going on between a certain developing country and one of the biggest first world country. And there's a lot of people on the internet that are saying things like, it's complicated, you should read more about it, etc. So, let's read about it. By the way, a trigger warning for a lot of war crimes. The book starts right around the end of the Ottoman Empire and the introduction of the famed Khalid Library in Palestine, and the author great-great-uncle, Yusuf Dia, someone that I can only call a genius and a scholar. He studied heavily in his youth, even going to British Church School in Malta, Imperial Medical School in Istanbul, and an American Protestant college. And during the short term, he learned English, French, German, and a lot more. Because of his skill and accomplishment, his journey goes on to become a major political figure and an accomplished scholar. Because of Yusuf's position in Jerusalem, he sees the rise of the first Zionist figure that was established at first because of Western anti-Semitism. I'm talking about the rise of Theodor Herzl. Yusuf made a plea to him to leave Palestine alone because of the indigenous people who won't want to be replaced there, but he dismissed it. He also dismissed how dangerous the Zionist movement to other Jewish communities at large, which has been proven to be true. There's a lot of racial discrimination to Jews just because they're Jews, and every time Israel does something bad, all Jews, including those that are long-time immigrants with nothing to do with Zionists, is somehow also at fault. It's the same principle that raised a lot of racism, judging people by insert race or religion here by the words of the highest power of insert country here. But Herzl continued to dismiss it using colonialist common excuse to start the war against Palestine. That's the simplest form of it. The complication is only after everything gets added later on. Although this war shares many of the typical characteristics of other colonial campaigns, it also possesses very specific characteristics, as it was fought by and on behalf of the Zionist movement, which itself was and is very particular colonial project. Further complicating this understanding is the fact that this colonial conflict, conducted with massive support from external powers, become over time a national confrontation between two new national entities, two peoples. Underlying this feature and amplifying it was the profound resonance for Jews and also for many Christians of their biblical connection to the historic land of Israel. Expertly woven into modern political Zionism, this resonance has become integral to it. A late 19th century colonial national movement thus adorned itself with a biblical quote that was powerfully attractive to Bible-reading Protestants in Great Britain and the United States, blinding them to the modernity of Zionism and its colonial nature. For how could Jews be colonizing the land where their religions begin? And from there, the book takes us to a journey of the 100 years of war on Palestine that is still ongoing even to this day. The author will go through mostly 6 turning events, the biggest events that happened in between those 100 years, starting with 1917 to 1989. It starts with the first time in forever after Palestine has mostly become cannon fodder in wars for the Ottoman Empire. Palestine was building a foundation as a nation with literacy going up, working class solidarity, and women's rights is on the rise along with population, education, transportation, etc. The Zionist agenda from Herzl was mostly just small members, like a bunch of thugs with no power like the initial Nazis in Germany. But everything changed after British decided to involve themselves and made the Balfour Declaration, their declaration to join the Zionist colonial movement to erase the Palestine. Not out of goodwill, of course, it's England after all. It's because they make an agreement to divide the land with Mecca and France. And things got even worse after the League of Nations declared their mandate in 1922, which according to an Israel sociology is a politicide that erased the people of Palestine from power. In fact, it is so pro-Zionist that Jews that did not support or even oppose the Zionists are taken out of power in Palestine. Things got worse again with the rise of the Third Reich, the Nazis. The German Jews that escaped Germany can go to countries like US and UK and a lot of other places that have strong immigration discrimination law. So they escaped to Palestine. This move also came along with a lot of wealth because of the Havara agreement the Zionists have with the Third Reich. The anti-Nazi boycott that has been really hurting the Nazis' pocket will be stopped in Germany if the Nazi allows this move. And because of the sudden spike of population, The condition of the Palestinian that's been hurting because their existence has been held back by British and Zionist cooperation got even worse. They've been hurting economically since the Jews was at around 6% of the population, and now with the massive immigration that have no other place to go, the Jewish population goes to 30%. A lot of these immigrants also turn to Zionists since there's a lot of incentive to not go against them. The British divided the Palestine even further by recruiting a few Palestinian people that wanted to have the white man luxuries, as long as they placate the Palestinian. This dragged them further apart until there was a short strike going from 1936 to 39. These are people attacked from many sides and abandoned by their neighbors. Israel, British, France, America wants a piece of their land. Meanwhile, their neighbors Mecca, Jordan, and Iraq are pro-British, while Saudi is pro-America, and some of them even goes pro-Israel later on. So they are left to their own device to defend themselves against this giant from first world countries. A lone third world country that has to face a combination of many first world countries is just nuts. They entered this fateful contest woefully, unprepared both politically and militarily, and with a fragmented and disparate leadership. Moreover, they had little external support except from the deeply divided and unstable Arab states, still under the influence of the old colonial powers and which had poor and largely illiterate populations. This was in stark contrast to the international standing and the strong modern para-state built up by the Zionist movement over several decades. It also didn't help them that there are some dumbasses that created organizations like the PLO, Fatah, and Hamas that only makes things worse for the people in Palestine again and again. Palestine tried to gain their independence with various results, but their attempt are feeble at most, and the repercussions only got worse and worse. In 1950s, Israel executed hundreds to thousands of captured Palestinians with lots of civilians among them. The book continues to the Beirut War in 1987 and the Gaza War in 2014. The situation got worse, especially once the backing from British is exchanged to the backing of United States during these periods. It got worse, and this is only halfway through the book, and it got worse still even after the book has ended with the current war where the casualties has reached more than 20,000 people in a year with much more injured and displaced. The current war in Palestine is not complicated at its very core. It's just very long, and in those lengths there are deliberate attempts at making it seem more complicated. Additional information like Israel's refusal to mention that Palestine is a nation and every other religious excuses is just some justification for their eradication that is added after the initial Zionist attack to Palestine. Palestine is a nation that has existed for thousands of years and are older than America or Australia and a lot of other nations. They're not just Arabs or Muslim, they're not Egypt, nor are they Mecca, and they're definitely not Fatah or Hamas. They're Palestinian. They're not some labels like heroes or villains. They're neither saints nor demons. They're people who needed their freedom since centuries ago but haven't gotten them yet. Just like most things on the internet, today's conversation often lacks the understanding of this history, and it doesn't help that a lot of people on the internet make it more weird and complicated just like they make every other things weird and complicated. Mostly people that are addicted to the internet like Kanye. One example of it is how there are only so much information you can get about the current war. What happens after you run out of information to find after 5 minutes? You started reading into propaganda, which are not only not helpful to the victims of the war, but can even be harmful, because it muddies the information that needs to be heard. While I get that they care so much, they need to find more, but on another hand, it's like you're trying to find more information to hate because apparently genocide is not enough of a reason. Especially with how much money are being generated by shared posts, which incentivize making up news that make people emotional. A lot of people, even those I know, don't even do any basic fact-checking anymore, because when you're stopping yourself before clicking share is not exactly an option you see when all the blood has rushed to your head. So some news like this was even spread without even checking if they're from a reliable source. Remember that propaganda is not about propaganda you hate and propaganda you like. Propaganda is propaganda, full stop. Don't support any of them based on your like and dislike. Stop trying to muddy the conversation with suspicion whether they're unfounded or educated, especially if all your education comes from questionable social media posts. If you're doing this, you're one of the people that make the situation seems more complicated because you don't seem to understand the gravity of genocide. So what if you're right and the suspicion turns out to be true later on? Does that make you superior because you're corrected earlier than some people? Is the gratification of being able to say "I told you so" is so much better than lending a helping hand. How about stop trying to find more justification to stoke your hatred and your devolution into bigotry? Instead, find ways to help people in urgent need of help. And well, unfortunately, there is only a few things that you can do that actually help, but every helps matter in this case. The first thing you can do is march to the street. And if you cannot do that, if your country doesn't have that, make sure that it stays on trending on social media so the backlash to the backlash continues against Israel. 2. Remember that what you're doing is more of selectivism than activism, not that what you're doing has zero importance. You shouldn't let people tell you your voice don't matter for Palestine, because right now they matter more than ever. But remember to have some humility and self-awareness of how little is what you're doing, or it can lead to bad things, which leads to number 3. Again, if you want to help, the very least you can do is make sure that you're not spreading propaganda. I know that on the internet people only fact check facts they don't like, because fact checking is a hassle that takes the fun out of sharing, but make a habit of fact checking everything before you share them. I mean, the watermelon that doesn't actually have anything to do with Palestine was viral for a while. That's mostly innocent, but if you spread propaganda based on whether you like the propaganda or not, you're not helping. Now, number 4, read more on the topic. If you want to read, make sure to read from reliable sources like this book. There are also a lot of free PDF about the long history that makes you more aware about how not complicated the current situation is. It's just really long and really dense. Try boycotting. I know it sounds lame because how much stupid the term has become, since it's easy to imagine angry people spending too much time on the internet or stupid people burning products. But remember the history I pointed out in the book. Even the Nazis and the British responded when a boycott becomes successful enough. Because as usual with greedy people, hurting their pocket is one of the most effective ways to hurt them. BDS movement has kindly created a list on these places you can boycott, and the combined and ongoing effort has actually made major damage to these companies and to Israel and the countries that supported them. Country like Malaysia has even stopped export and import to Israel. Hell, even this book mentioned how much the effort of boycotting has been much more helpful to Palestine than the dumb things Fatah and Hamas are doing. And number 6, find places to donate or help. Gaza Help, PCRF, IMTU is still working their ass off to give relief to the victim of the current genocide. The point of the donation is to give immediate and temporary help to those in need. And because of the genocide that is happening, they can really use a lot of help right now. And lastly, check yourself. Remember that Zionism is anti-Semitism born out of a reaction to anti-Semitism and gain power also through anti-Semitism. There is a reason why currently Netanyahu and his right-wing predecessor there took control of Israel and are now committing genocide so casually. They need to go and the ceasefire need to happen, but don't let yourself turn anti-Semitic. Don't let yourself turn into another Zionist with different brand name. I'll try to link some reading material below. I'll also try to highlight some of the titles from the list there once I manage to get them. A big thanks to Think Peace Tribe for the list. What we know for sure is that this is not a war. Not really. Let's call it what it is. Bullying on the largest scale possible. For hundreds of years, Israel and the big cronies that stand behind them has basically tried to erase Palestine. And they are so much bigger as a country that Palestine did not stand a chance at fighting back for such a long time, but they did anyway. If you read the history, it makes sense that it escalated to the current genocide because nobody's powerful enough is stopping them. Maybe because genocide is so far removed from everyday life and are such rare occurrences that people don't understand the gravity of the event. But if you haven't yet realized, genocide needs to be stopped, no matter the reason. I know people have made everything so politicized so they can debate them for views and attention, but let's not try to make genocide into an argument and at least agree that it needs to be stopped instead of finding justification for it. What matters is that it is now a genocide, and call me crazy, but I think genocide should be stopped. And I think the more than 100 years attempt at erasing a nation should be stopped. While the Palestinian resurgence posed little or no threat to Israel in strategic terms, although the attacks by militant group did create serious security problems, it constituted an entirely different kind of challenge on the discursive level, one that was existential. The ultimate success of the Zionist project, as Allied Zionists define it, depended in large measure on the replacement of Palestine by Israel. For them, if Palestine exists, Israel could not. Israel was in consequence obliged to focus its powerful propaganda machine on a new target, while still having to counter the efforts of the Arab states. Since from the Zionist vantage point, the name Palestine and the very existence of the Palestinian constituted a mortal threat to Israel, task was to connect these terms indelibly, if they were mentioned at all, with terrorism and hatred, rather than with a forgotten but just cause. For many years, this theme was the core of a remarkably successful public relations offensive, especially in the United States. There are nothing complicated about what is happening in Palestine despite its long history. It's just a bunch of greedy megalomania from the top of some countries that just wanted a bigger land, hoping it'll get them more power for no good reason behind it. No country needs more land, not Israel, not British, not America, not Russia, not China, none of them. What is happening in Palestine, Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, etc. is the same. A lot of really bad people, narcissistic megalomania, who wants bigger dick for themselves, making it worse for everyone around them. Despite the constant effort at erasing their identity and the help of United States at painting Palestine as merely a terrorist, journalistic efforts from around the world have started to show the true colors of the Zionists against Palestine. While the people of the highest power around the world has failed Palestine in the most inhuman ways, for the first time ever, there is an undying spotlight for the nation that shows their support, and these voices have started to make a noticeable change towards people understanding of the war, and hopefully a change for peace for a nation that has never experienced peace for centuries. Nietzsche said that the love of truth is terrible and mighty because of how much effort it actually needs for us to uncover truth. If what you've known is mostly only through online articles and social media, I highly recommend this book. There are so much that the book tackles that this video barely scratches the surface of what it offers. It's such a well-researched and well-put book. It's one of those books where in almost every line there's something to take note of. I give this a 5. What do you think? Are you gonna read it? Did I miss anything? Leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it.